There's so many rules in 40K, hundreds of events, and constant updates. Skip the learning curve of Warhammer and join the pros. Art of War is led by multiple world champions with decades of success. We teach clinics, stream games, and inspire you to succeed at your favorite hobby. Join our global community of gamers just like you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Hangout and Hobby. I am Richard Sigler, the machine god himself.
That's right. I'm Jack Harpster. High Marshal of the Black Templars, the Jack Templars.
How do you spell High Marshal, though?
Well, it depends if you ask me or if you ask Nick. If you ask me, it's one L at the end.
If
you ask Nick,
it could have a ton of different.
It could have 3, 4,
They could have
5
so many
L's
letters.
even.
There's so many letters in Marshall you never knew before.
Marahal.
Why don't you explain the story? Because it's just a great way to start.
Okay, so we're each getting our jerseys, and everyone has their own memes. So everyone's jersey has their own memes on the back, whether it's Con Lennon or The Machine or whatever meme Nick's going for nowadays. And so I said, you know what? I'm playing the Jack Templars. Let me get High Marshal on the back of my shirt. And I would like a size. I mean, I'm a bigger guy. I would like a size extra large. Well, the first one that came was a size medium.
That's not extra large. It's not even close.
If you gave me a second one, those would be my sleeves.
I wear large in these jersey sizes.
They
to give you context,
they tend to size down a little bit. So that was a no-go. It was also in white. I preferred black. Whatever. That seemed like the least of my concerns. So I say, Nick, hey, this doesn't work. I need a new jersey. I need a jersey that fits. And he was like, well, it's not my fault. I was like, okay. I hear you, but I still need a jersey. Like, I paid for one. I'd like one, please. He's like, all right, let me get on that. Cut to a month and a half later.
These things take a while. I get 2 jerseys in, neither of which say High Marshal. They just say Harpster and Jack Harpster on the back, like Harpster's my goddamn nickname. It's not. And I kind of went, all right, fine. This is just going to have to be good enough. And then I want to order another one. I'm sized down. Well done, me. And I want to get a new jersey. And I say, Nick, this time, seriously, no joke. Can we get High Marshal on the back, please? And he says, yeah, I got you. Which should have been my first, You got to be
first
skeptical
sign.
on that.
Yeah. First X to doubt. So so he orders one, Nick comes. And not only is it white, not black, but it says High Marshal, like the name, with 2 L's on the end. I was like, Nick, I'm not wearing this. This one's misspelled. And he's like, oh, well, you can see the chat logs with them. I'm like, I, again, do not care whose fault it is. Don't really care. So he messaged back to them. And in the email specifying the spelling, they're like, how do you want this to be spelled? He's like, I would like it to be spelled High Marahal. Just to be precise. He says something like, just to be, clear, I would like it to be spelled exactly High Marahal, Marahal. And Sieg sees that in his email and sends an update, right? You send an update?
John did.
John sent the update. It was like, no. Marshall, please, Marshall. And the only reason we're getting this one for free is because they messed up. They sent a white one instead of a black one. Nick messed up the spelling. We checked that one. So eventually, after another month and a half, the new one arrives and it looks fine.
It's good. It is actually good.
It fits everything. Everyone's happy. I'm happy, finally.
Jack, you could have been the only High Marahal in existence.
It's actually a Black Templars thing. You wouldn't understand.
It's a new rank.
Exactly.
It's a new Primaris rank.
High Marshal. Yeah, exactly. There's the Castellans, the Marshals, the High Marshals, the Marahals, and the High Marahals.
Yep.
So that is how I ended up being the first High Marahal in
first and only.
First and only, yeah, that's right. It's a rank created specifically for me.
Hey, can you tell us about your thoughts on Liam H's 60-man rubric list? Do you think it could compete with my AdMech? Were you able to get a chance to look at Liam's Thousand Suns list from the weekend?
No. Who's who?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read that list, so if you want to go ahead and just type out kind of the broad strokes of it besides 60 rubrics, I imagine there's probably like 3 characters. Maybe there's
3 characters? It's Thousand Suns.
I mean, I've been seeing, well, with that many rubric brains.
That's true. You do get a lot of Cabal points.
Yeah, you might have about 3 of the characters.
My
It could have more.
which is AdMech. Yeah, no, my assumption would be that it cannot compete with Rich's AdMech. Just based off the 2 codices you mentioned. But we'll see. We'll then post it out.
The biggest thing for Thousand Suns is Cerberus Raiders are scary.
They are.
They have
terrible.
one way to get Bodyguard, but that's only on a single character. And if you just lose the other characters, you're going to be in a really bad spot because that's where most of the mortal potential is. The other thing about AdMech is ignoring AP 1 and 2 on a big unit of troops is pretty difficult for Thousand Suns because it's going to be screened, so it's not taking mortals. And then on top of that, you really need to delve deeply into the Terminators to get that AP3 on, what is it called? Some sort of launcher? The missile rack.
Oh, the missile rack. The missile rack. I think it's
Yeah.
just a Hellfire missile rack.
So if you're not if you're loading up on rubrics, you don't get access to the missile racks, and that's kind of their best range tool for dealing with the Ranger Bricks. Because otherwise, Ranger Bricks just pick up infinite amount of stuff each turn.
Every single turn.
And
And you're
that
not
is hard for
you're
Thousand
not
Suns.
really getting the psychic powers where you need them to. I mean, you'll pick up a lot of.
Yeah, because if you come up to get the psychic powers on them, they're 36 inches away.
I
You're
mean-
getting hit by every Rust Stalker on the field, and they will kill every character, no problem.
Oh, but they get +1 to their save against damage 1.
Well, I'm just gonna drop so many mortals that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think AdMech is a really tough
And they're
matchup
also
for
AP3,
Thousand Suns, but
yeah.
it's a tough matchup for a lot of armies.
Yeah, so I would not be very. There's just so much stuff in AdMech that you need to get through, and it's hard to get through it all, and it all just kills you if you don't.
Yeah, there's no weak units in there. Even the trash can actually just pick up stuff.
But it's underpowered, right? Right, Six.
It's not underpowered. It's very delicately balanced so that a top player can get the most out of it, right, Jack? I mean, there's been
Don't ask me these things
we
while I
got
have a knife in my hand.
we got 2 top.
That's all I'm saying.
We got 2 top 16s. We got Orlando and we got New Orleans. There's only 2 AdMech players in those, one of which is me. I mean, if
Again-
AdMech was as broken, wouldn't we
Again,
just
let
see
me
like
put the
8
knife
AdMechs?
down before I respond to this.
Wouldn't we just see AdMech all over the place if it was truly that broken, right?
Michaela wants to know: did we ever? Did we forget the broken candle in the tub? How long has it sat there? Is it still there?
No, because Nick was washing young Bella.
No.
Otherwise, it was going to be there for a while.
Yeah. Well, it would have been there until he had to wash Bella. Honestly.
Punkvox says he's totally not going to call you Marshall Jack forever now. Jack goes by many names, including Jack Law.
That's right, Jack Law.
Jack got
Star of many movies, including Wrong Side of the Law, The Long Arm of the Law.
Jack got the credit for Blake's lovely painted AdMech Knights Army at Orlando on the GW website.
Yep.
And from there,
I'm very proud of it, honestly.
The Legend of Jack Law was spawned.
That's right. Well, the thing is, Blake's kid is named Jack, and there's no way to prove that it was not named after me. There's no way. We have known each other before he named his kid Jack, so I'm just saying it stands to reason.
We got member hype in the chat. We got Tim Pinney and Punkvox, both members for 10 months in a row, saying woohoo member milestone. And then all the best people got here 10 months ago. Thanks to both of you for being longtime supporters of the channel. Very much appreciate you guys. Jack knows about AdMech.
What's going on about AdMech?
Don't ask me what I have in eye. You're saying that the volume's a little low? I can put it on up. And could have been adjusted from the last time people streamed. I'll just double check it real quick. And let's see. Properties. Making sure everything's good on the sound. Balance looks good.
So, Siegs, I
Yeah.
hear you're too much of a coward for Crucible.
I don't feel like I need to flex my powers at Crucible, to be quite honest.
I'm saying, that sounds like someone who's afraid he's going to lose.
I'm not afraid at all, frankly. Because,
you're not going.
John brought his best counter, and that wasn't enough.
What did he
His
play
Black
with?
Templars.
not like a great counter to AdMech. Yeah, that list counters AdMech, sure.
I went ahead and raised the volume up a little bit. Let me know if that makes a difference, and if it doesn't, I'll scoot it up a little more. But don't want it too deep in the yellow. Open somebody else's videos. Usually I feel like Siegs underestimates his favorite factions, but actually agree about AdMech, other than the flyer spam list. I mean...
No.
Yeah,
No,
yes.
do not let him do this to you.
Yes.
He is a master troll, and he is masterfully trolling.
El Kukui knows exactly what he's talking about. He's 100% right on the flyers. The flyers take a lot of skill out of some matchups because they offer AdMech the opportunity to just table you in your deployment zone. And I don't think that should be a thing in 40k. Do you agree, Jack?
The Flyers do take even less skill than the rest of AdMech somehow.
But if you're running this pure Metallica build that I love, that is a high skill cap army. It's a melee combat prowess army, and as Nick knows, I am quite adept at the melee.
You are not. Out of all of the people in this house, you are the worst at the melee phase. You just have an army that just runs people over with 17-point models. You're great at shooting people, though. You're amazing at the shoots.
I'm amazing at screening.
It's like chess, I've heard it described from Siegler, by talking about his Tau list that was just, I move to the center of the board and then I sit in the center of the board.
I don't sit. I send 2-man drone units out.
Like chess.
Mm-hmm. And then I systematically dismantle you. Systematically, Jack. All right, I don't forget about the 10 aberrants in the center of the board. Get run over.
So, again, story time, I guess. I was at a tournament called Beef and Wing with Nick like 2 years ago. And we drove up there with a friend of ours named Amir, who actually runs Golden Globe Gaming. And we went up. It's all the way up to like the Canadian border back when we lived in New Jersey.
It's in Buffalo, right?
Buffalo, yes, that's what it was, not Albany. So we went up there, and I had taken a list that physically could not lose. Okay? I had just played Siegs with Tau, and I was like, damn, Tau be strong, though. So I was like, all right, I want to take Tau, and I knew the good players who were going to Beef and Wing. It was Nick, who I knew was playing Genestealer Cult, and it was TJ and... who else was it?
Shaw going?
What's that? No, it wasn't Sean. It was oh, this is very stupid because I know him.
Hopefully he's not listening.
Hopefully not. He ran all the Plague Marine Plague.
Jim Vessel?
Yeah, Jim Vessel. Anyway, it was Jim Vessel, it was TJ, and it was Nick. Those were the players I was worried about. And I knew everyone else I could probably beat on just player skill. So although there were some people who showed up who were pretty good, I decided I wanted to take a Tau list that could not physically lose to those three. It was 27 sniper drones, a broken list if I've ever seen one. The idea was to snipe out all of the characters that were hiding behind the Plague Bearers, and also they're just generally, I guess, fine into Genestealer Cult at the time. I ran this list by Siegs, and Siegs was like, no, do not do this. This is a bad list. You will lose. Do not do this. And I was like, all right, I have Siegs' seal of approval. We're taking the list.
I hear you, but I also am going.
I have physically mathed it out. I cannot lose. I will see you on the other side with my trophy. So I showed up to the tournament, and I win my first 2 games somehow. The list was trash.
It was.
It was really bad. So I win my first 2 games, and I get paired into Nick. And by this point, I have drunk a little, and Nick has drunk a lot. And I then decide it's a good idea. Once we know the pairings, but we still have like an hour before our game, I get hammered too. So Nick and I are both absolutely hammered. And we're going into our game. I'm like, let's keep the field even. Little did I know, or I did really know at the time, because I've known Nick for a while, that he plays good when he's drunk. And I have no idea how I play when I'm drunk. Turns out bad. Very bad. He was playing Genestealer Cult, and he literally, we were both, third round of the day, we were both just absolutely hammered. And he moves an aberrant unit into a building, and I immediately forget it's there. Completely just forget it's there. Go about my turn, basically don't do anything.
This is when aberrants were the scary.
This is when aberrants hit you, you are done, my man. And I just forget they're there. Like, they are halfway up the board, they're almost in my lines, and I just literally forget that they're there. Like, just... So I do my lackluster shooting phase. Can't emphasize enough how bad this army is. And then goes back to Nick's turn, and he starts moving the aberrants out, and I concede on the spot. So we just go outside and like talk for another 2 hours while the round continues. That took like 20 minutes. And then I lose my next round of the following round, and I end the day like 2-2. And that's not great. That's not.
That's why you take my advice when it comes to.
Yeah, if I ever take Tau again, I will listen to Siegs next time.
This is back to back because Nick also, when he went into John on that bet match, took Tau, and I gave him advice on what to run. He took none of my advice and then got stomped.
That sounds like it. Although, Nick and I both go into playing Tau thinking like, oh, we're going to like it. It's all based around mobility. We're not going to just build the standard dumb Siegs gunline nonsense. And then what ends up happening is we end up hating the army. And about 2 turns into the tournament. So
don't blame me for not being options in the codex.
The chicken tenders at that place were actually absurdly good. I loved them. That was the high point of the weekend for
chicken
me.
Tenders from 3 years ago.
Yes, I still remember them. If I go back to Beef and Wing, it's because of those chicken tenders in the hotel lobby. They were really good.
Orcs and Dark Eldar need addressed first. Before Admech, Metallica is extremely hard to be good with.
Oh my god, don't feed this man.
El Kukui, an
El
absolute genius.
El Kukui, you have an excellent taste in MMA fighters, and you have a horrible taste in takes. Orcs need to be addressed.
They need to be addressed first.
They need to be addressed now, yesterday, immediately, please, God.
I think there should be a combined FAQ. Orcs, Drukhari, Admech all get toned down. Just do it all at once.
Just
all at once. Do it before chapter approved, so that we're all.
I hope they carpet bomb orc buggies into the next dimension, and then they make the actual infantry based lists like a little better. But seriously, get them out of here. Buggies are so dumb.
I honestly would switch the AP from Speedwa to the combat one.
Yeah, that would work.
And it only works on infantry.
How about this? Do you think this would balance it out? Make Speedwalk literally don't do anything. Turn 1, nothing happens. Turn 2, half of it.
Half of nothing.
Half of nothing. That's my game plan.
Speedwalk is insane.
I hate Speedwalk so much. I played a game against Mark where it was... The only reason it was go first win was because it was on... it was sweep and clear, so I was right next to him. So if I went first, I'd blow up both his planes, charge his lines with 3 Warglaives and 3 Megaras, and that's it. And if he goes first, he hurts me really bad.
Basically, it's 2 turns to pump max damage into you.
Yeah, and it sucked. It sucked. It sucked really bad. Let's not talk about that.
How much damage did the Wazboom Blastogets do?
Okay, so the average number of shots that a Wazboom Blastojet should get, for 2 Wazboom Blastogets should get is 14. He got 15 wounds. They don't reroll hits or wounds or nothing. My man was just going off. Like
you know the scariest damage that I have? It's all coming.
There's no like if I roll those Wazboom Blastogets, I'm gonna roll a 2 and a 1. I'm gonna reroll the 1 into a 3. I'm gonna miss 2 times, and I'm gonna fail to win once, and here's 2 saves. Mark, on the other hand, was like, here's a what was it? It was a 2 and a 4. He rerolls the 2 into a 6. So that's 10 shots. And then the second one just natively rolls 10 shots. And even out of that, he should wound 9 times, but he gave me 15 saves to take, so I don't know what to tell you. I still killed both planes on the crackback and charged everything into his lines. It just wasn't enough at that point. I just didn't have enough stuff.
Let's see.
No, I see a good comment here from El Kukui. Jack, who did you pick to win between Ortega and Volk? I wanted to see the fight. Scroll down.
I don't know anything about fighting.
Live on Vegas too. It'll be short. I picked Volk. I thought he's just like much better, but Ortega looked really, really good. I got to see that fight live actually at the event with Brad. So we were in the hotel, in the casino, and there was a little sports bar. So we went there. They had a $50 minimum that you had to spend on food and drink combined in order to go sit down and watch the fights, which was absolutely crazy, but we managed to watch it as it was live and happening. So it was a crazy, it was fight of the year contender for sure.
Let's see. Thanks for the answer. One last question. What do you think of Imperial Soup, Grey Knights with Admech or Deathwatch? Grey Knights lose a lot not having tides, honestly. I'd rather just stay within your Marine chapter than have Grey Knights without the tides.
Yeah. I just don't see a point to souping Grey Knights, to be honest with
Like
you.
Vanguard vets are basically interceptors, more
Yeah.
defense. And if
Dreadnoughts aren't noticeably better or worse than Dread Knights. Like, they're probably a bit better, but really
they're
cares.
roughly equivalent.
They're
Like,
roughly
they
equivalent.
benefit from different things, and they have
Yeah,
better
they're
defense
better-
against certain things.
Yeah, better anti-tank, slightly, but it's so close that there's no reason to soup and lose tides.
Yeah.
For sure.
Without that plus 6 inch range, you have to get quite close to enemy units, and with advance and charge being all over the game right now, you're getting hit.
Yeah.
And Dread Knights want to just survive for as long as possible, pumping out damage.
Dread Knights being 24 inches sucks. Dread Knights being 30 inches is acceptable. And that's where we're at, basically.
Jack, how was your experience playing Knights at New Orleans?
I actually kind of thought I'd hate it. The reason I took Knight, I didn't end up hating it. That's the spoiler alert. Yeah. So I had played Knights once before, and we were thinking of me taking them to the team tournament. I was just gonna mess around and play with big stompy robots, and I played a practice game. The game went fine. I just hated not feeling I had any control over the outcome of the game because you have fewer units and fewer ways to finesse them
And there's
than I
whole
was used to.
important secondary category that you can't interact with.
Yep, at all. So that kind of sucked. I was like, I don't really like Knights. I don't want to play them to the team tournament. So we didn't. And then at the team tournament, I get a massive tooth infection through my teeth, and I power my way through it. But by the time I come back, I am miserable. So I go to the dentist, and this ties in, by the way.
Jack just wants to talk about his,
How,
his
how,
dental care.
how just absurd my teeth are sometimes. Yes.
He's going to lecture everybody on dental care.
Brush your teeth, kids. That's all I can say. So I get back and I immediately get a dentist appointment. Thank God. And on Thursday, I get 4 of my teeth pulled. Just 3 on this side, 1 up here. And I said, you know what's not in the cards for me? A complicated army. Because gosh darn it, I'm going to go to New Orleans. Screw it. Literally pulling 4 of my teeth the day we travel down. Like the day.
Yeah.
Like
It's a 5.5 hour drive. We need to go because Friday is the first 3 games.
my appointment's at 11. John drives me there because he's a saint. He drives me to my dentist appointment. I get 4 teeth yoinked. He drives me to Publix to pick up prescriptions and pick up food that doesn't require chewing. We head back to the house here, and in like an hour or 2, we're on the road to New Orleans. I have gauze in my mouth. I can barely talk. I'm like, burr, 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 burr. But screw it, we're going to New Orleans. And I decide that a finesse army is not actually what the doctor ordered, and so I decided to take Knights, an army where, for the first couple rounds, I don't have to think. I just have to robot at people and stomp on them. And I ended up actually having a good time with the Knights. They're fun in kind of a stupid way, but they are fun. Brian Jones, hope you're not listening. But yes, no, they were kind of dumb, but they were fun. But my first round was actually pretty hard. I paired into just randomly a good player round 1, Nick DeVoe. He's playing Dark Eldar, and he's won a GT with them. And that game actually got a little tighter than I was looking for round 1. 4 teeth down to be, but I managed to pull it out slightly. It actually ended up being the reason he went in second bracket instead of first. And then my next couple rounds were fun. I just blew some people off the board. Had a good time just annihilating people and tabling them by like turn 2 because Daenerys shoot stupid hard. I keep thinking like I know how much damage they do, and then my opponent's army disappears in a hail of bullets or lightning cannons, and then
I don't have much left. How much left do you shoot? I still got 2 more Knights.
I still have another Knight and another Morax, and my God. In round 4, I actually paired into Kyle Malmborg, who was playing point for point my Blood Angels list from Orlando. And that was actually a really fun matchup. He played really well, and it turned into a very cagey, points grabby kind of style of game. And I managed to edge it out not by enough to knock him down into second bracket, because he perfect 300'd his first 3 games. But, I mean, by a little bit. So I was 4-0 going into the top bracket, and I was feeling pretty good, and I was happy Kyle made it in too.
The Blood Angels.
It was sweep and clear. There was no way I was physically going to be able to, even if I wanted to, keep him to the points required to knock him out of the bracket. There's just no And then going into round 5, I pair into sisters, and I kind of table them in 2 turns. That was fun. And then round 6, I pair into James Kelling, who's playing his I have already beaten everybody with regular Dark Eldar. I don't really feel like doing that anymore. I'm going to play 5 Talus and 6 Chronos. And everything except for the Talus and the Chronos, the Talaway and the Chronoway, or however you pluralize that, vanished in a puff of smoke as soon as I even looked at them sideways. But his Talus and his Chronos just kept walking through the beating that I laid down on them until eventually all my knights collapsed. And that sucked.
-1 damage Talos is pretty good against.
You would think.
Yeah.
I think Strength 7, wounding on 3s, putting him to his invuln, 3 damage goes to 2. You'd think that'd get the job done.
Hey, 5 of Feel No Pains.
Yikes. It did not. It did not. So, and Chronos actually slapped knights really hard with their flamers. So that went sideways. Ended up being a close loss, unfortunately. I tried to take over the board early because I had first turn, so whatever. Then I slapped down a very scary Salamanders list. He null zoned one of my knights turn 1 and blew it up with a Sikaran Venator, doing 18 damage with a Sikaran Venator in 3 shots. Flat 6 damage and
you don't want to
strength
see
14 or some nonsense is scary. So he killed one of my knights without even trying. But luckily, 2 knights can still table a Salamander's army, and that is exactly what happened. And then my last round was against Mark, and it was literally go first win. That was what it came down to. Orc buggies are very stupid, and if he goes first, he hurts me real bad. And if I go first, I hurt him real bad. And I cannot beat the power of Mark trying to win the roll-off to go first. You just can't do it.
I couldn't do it.
Well, we don't talk about that. Admech bad, apparently, according to you. Underpowered, I think, is the exact words.
Well, I couldn't win the roll-off to go first.
You couldn't. He rolled a 2, and unfortunately, that was more than enough.
Mark rolled a 2. He rolled the first die, rolled the 2, and I was like, I got this, no problem. Rolled a 1. Come on, please.
Well, he rolled a 6, and then I rolled a 6, which gave me false hope for about 2 seconds until he rolled a 6 again, and I rolled like a 3. And I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. Obviously, I'm not going to beat Mark on the win first roll-off. And I did not.
How much did he kill turn 1?
Kill a 9.5. And so he only had the buggy units that could shoot at an armature. So he fires them first, and he does 2 wounds with the first buggy unit. They can like...
For the first armature?
On the first armature, yeah. First buggy unit shoots the first armature that's out of line of sight of everything else. And he does 2 wounds. And I'm like, all right, feeling kind of hot. Got 10 wounds left. He's not getting his easy +1, and then he just flipping annihilates it with the next buggy unit. It does like 15, 20 wounds to it or some nonsense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. That's how that's going.
I forgot these things shoot hard.
Yeah, and then his plane shot and did 15 wounds combined, etc., etc. I rolled real hot, too, just not enough. And I lost a knight and change. And he was able to chip me down once I got into his lines, unfortunately. So it ended up being a protracted, I was killing stuff the whole time, but I just got chipped down and started losing knights to his random, nonsense mortal wound shenanigans that Mark slaps in every list that still ends up working. Like, it only ends up working for him, but, I mean, that's the person playing it, so there you go.
Those stick bombs on the squig buggies, like, what the heck?
Yeah, exactly. He ends up doing a bunch of mortal wounds, and I don't understand it, quite frankly, but there you go. Tank hammers.
When will I bring Grey Knights to a big tournament?
Yeah, Crucible. Come on, Crucible.
Maybe in the future.
When Admech get nerfed into the ground, he just hops off that elevator that's going to the ground floor, and he's just onto the Knights. Onto the Grey Knights.
I do like the Grey Knights a lot. I built and painted that whole army for the team event that Nick ran. So it is my army. I was wondering what you guys think about Thousand Sons. I think
you can tell Nick had his way with them.
Nick took some good care of my models. Was wondering what you guys think about Thousand Sons. Think Contemptors are still good in that army because of the Ori. It ignores modifiers and damage reduction. How many should I run? I've seen people running anywhere between 1 and 2. 3 is a lot.
3 is a lot. You're leaning into being a bad Dreadnought list.
Yeah.
I think at that point. Because you don't have easy access to AP -1. You can do it on one guy.
I think 1 is fine.
1 is great.
I'd start
I
with
think,
1
yeah.
and just see how you like it. If your meta requires more shooting, then maybe bump it up to 2. But if you're playing on heavier terrain, I would stick with 1 at most.
Yeah, that's where I would leave it off.
After thoroughly reviewing the rules, I can't see any way how Lennon's White Scar's Rhino with devs are allowed to function. That is a John question. It does function that way. It sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Games Workshop do not understand the rules of interaction, I am sure.
Yes. But it does actually work that way.
They have not FAQ'd it.
The other thing is the devs advance, and then there's a way to make them shoot after
Kinda
advancing.
stationary.
Blah, blah, blah. Why didn't we take orcs to Vegas? Because Nick hated them.
Yeah, they had the highest win rate in our practice
He
games.
did not.
They did.
They had matchups where they got blown out, and they had matchups where they ran people over, and there was no in between on the orcs. And we realized that we have a guy who's actually all right at 40k. Like he's fine, I guess. He's retired, so he's a lot of practice. But we have a guy who's all right at 40k. So let's give him an army where he can actually play the game.
But the orcs ran over our top 3 lists.
Yeah,
In
and then
practice.
they had some bad matchups.
They had some bad matches, but team events you can go in with a couple bad matchups if
Yeah.
you're beating the top meta armies.
But largely it was down to we wanted something that Nick could have play with, and also
He wanted an army that he
not
could have play with, because
want to
otherwise it was
die.
just tabling people.
Yes, it was tabling sisters, but granted, I'm not that worried about most sisters armies.
Yeah. What kind of tier list? What kind of live tier list would you like to make with us? AdMech tier list. Let's do AdMech. AdMech.
They're all S tier to me.
They're not. There's a lot of Cult Mechanica stuff that is trash.
Sorry, there's C tier, which stands for cult tier, and then there is
The Skitarii tier.
Then there's S tier, which stands for Skitarii.
It's a shame how the book is so wildly in favor of Skitarii.
And then they get a supplement for Skitarii. Wild.
They needed to be.
Truly
Games
wild.
Workshop said they needed to be better, and they made them better. And
Still not good enough if you listen to C.
Infiltrators need some buffs.
Right, yes. No, they, yeah. Uh-huh. This is going to turn into just a
Uh,
big old salt mine over here in a second.
Yes, the bodyguard rule is an aura.
Yes. It isn't specified as an aura, I believe, but it falls under the just definition of aura. in
Yeah,
the
it
rulebook.
functions as an aura.
The only things that aren't auras that function like auras are things that specifically say that they are not.
Yep. Love my Chaos Knight armies. Chaos Knights unfortunately cannot run the Morax, the Majeras to the same effectiveness.
Yeah, it is
That's the one thing holding Chaos Knights back.
embarrassing, actually, because... So, here's why Chaos Knights are no good, unfortunately. Megaras are the only knight, really, that's decent. They're the only one that's statted properly, in my opinion, to where a knight should be. But, if you look in the Forge World book, and you look at the keywords that it has, it says, even under Chaos Knight Megara, it is Questoris class. And if you look in the Chaos book, Chaos Knights, what has access to relics and warlord traits and just everything in the book, basically. You get things like Despoiler class and Rampager class and things like that. And which means that a Megara cannot get warlord traits, it cannot get relics, it cannot get everything that you need, pretty much. You might be able to make your warlord one, but one is not good enough in my opinion. So that's been like a year that it's been like that, where it just doesn't work because of a fundamentally broken rules interaction that they haven't fixed. If it does, Chaos Knights, I'm all about them, baby. Let's get them moving. Let's make those strength 8 -2 damage 4 lightning cannons. Let's slap. But
Yeah,
until
like
then-
Chaos Knights have some actually powerful rules.
yeah, they do for sure. You can get more axes that hit like tanks. Strength 7 -2 2 damage. 6 shots, exploding 6s. It's pretty good. Unfortunately,
You need the big knights.
you need the big knights, and you need the big knights to not suck. And
Ignoring cover is just such a powerful rule for a shooting
yes,
army.
Imperial Prey Sight. We are blurry.
That's probably because the camera was just refocusing on something else. What do you think Mark could have done differently as a matchup against me? I don't think he needed to move into the middle of the table with his buggies and let the Ruststalkers get charges. I just got extra damage when I didn't need to. So he didn't have to. He wanted to get all the extra shots on the stuff in my deployment zone though, and be able to pressure me the next turn. I think he was just so confident, having tabled everybody else, annihilated other good lists, that he was like, going first. I got this, no problem. It's just over. And turns out the Ranger unit that I kept safe and the Stratoraptors were gonna just win the game if he couldn't deal with them.
Yes.
After turn 1, he wasn't. The Ranger Brick picked up both of his Wazboom Blastojets, so the planes weren't.
Both?
Yeah, I split fire and did Wrath of Mars. I ran him in the Techno Martyr, ignoring penalties, and I gave him +1 to hit from the protocol.
Yeah. Did you fire like 6 into 1?
I spent 2 CP to increase their shots to 3 apiece, and then did Wrath of Mars. And the first one did 11 wounds, and he failed every save.
That doesn't sound like Mark.
Well, it's because he was taking 6. He didn't have the income on there. So he's taking 6 ups. Didn't make any. Pop the 1 mortal onto there, and then the other plane took 1 billion damage.
Yeah, sounds like AdMech are really bad, honestly.
So the Ranger unit picked them up, and then the Stratoraptors got to focus on the Scrapjets, which had that flat 3 damage. So I got rid of most of them, and the Ruststalkers helped finish them off in the center of the table. And yes, he picked up all my board control in 2 turns, but after that I picked up his board control, and it came down to turn 3 onward. He couldn't deal with the Ranger Brick that had +1 save from the Canic Thrall net and models in cover, ignoring AP 1 and 2. And so
I saw a bunch of planes still flying around and none of them were orc. And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
This doesn't...
Going first, I win no problem. I went first against a different orc player and was able to pick up the flyers. The first orc player I played against, his flyer blew up in the middle of his army and did a minimum of 2 mortals to everything. Yeah.
If I remember hearing him complain properly, he wasn't able to careen out of the way because it was movement blocked, and he had to go forward.
No, he was blocked, and it's only 6 inches that he can move, right?
Yeah, it's only 6 inches.
So what he wanted to do was put it into strategic reserve, like move it off.
He wanted to careen into strategic reserve,
but the judges ruled that
what an alpha.
you have to fly your minimum distance in order to get into strategic reserve, and 6 inches is not the minimum distance.
Careening into strategic reserve.
He tried. I mean, he didn't want it to blow up on every buggy unit he had, which I understood. So
yeah, 1 CP to avoid like 20 mortal wounds.
Yeah. Speaking of chaos, how legit or silly is Triple Lord of Skulls?
I mean, that's a little on the flexy side. Like,
Triple,
you're just flexing on people.
because it's a ridiculous model. First of all,
it has the problem of knights. Knights are very fast. They're surprisingly quick, which is good for them because that lets you touch terrain and see through. Lord of Skulls are less quick. They're still not slow.
Are they on a larger base size?
They are on a larger base size, which makes getting around the board a chore. Yeah. That's not to say the list is bad. Obviously, I mean it shellacked Colin McDade.
He didn't play triple though.
He played one.
Yeah, one was enough apparently. Wow.
One good enough. So 3 triple good enough.
They shoot a lot of damage, and then with Iron Warriors you can get all those crazy buffs on them.
Yeah. I think 3's probably leaning a little too much.
3 is leaning, because you play against, if you're playing on heavier terrain and your opponent has like melee relay type of armies, they'll just kill the characters that are defending you and move block you.
Yeah.
And you're never touching middle objectives.
People can still kill Lord of Skulls.
Yeah,
they're tough, they're tanky, they're big, they're scary, but people can still kill them. Knights have a good advantage, as I said, they're quick and they can get around the board really, really fast. You can have a guy who moves 22 inches with 1 CP and still shoots. So you just move up, you touch terrain, you see into the terrain, you're like, hey, and you shoot him. Hey, good to see ya, and you shoot him. Otherwise, what you're going to be doing is tanking shots from last chickens all game, and that's going to really suck.
Yeah, you don't want to take that many last cannons to the face. I'm taking Blood Angels to a weekend trip with my friends. Any tips for my lists and games? I'm playing against Dark Angels, Chaos Space Marines, Tyranids.
Ooh,
well, Jack is actually playing Blood Angels again on stream this week against the Drukhari.
That's right. I'm playing them as a YouTube game, I believe, on stream against Nick's weird Drukhari list that still has a lot of the powerful units. Should be a fun game. I'm also taking Blood Angels to Crucible, which is a local GT here. Should be a good time. I personally like an all melee approach to Blood Angels. It tends to be a little unforgiving of mistakes because you can lose units really
fast if you miss position. But it has a lot of power and being able to control the board. So you can try an approach like that. I know some people have had moderate success with like a more balanced approach with like some inceptors and some redemptors and a librarian and stuff like that. I tend not to like that kind of build as much because it feels like it's, instead of being good at one thing, you've just become not good at like everything. But you at least have some power at every phase of the game, so you can play that if you want to work your way up to what I consider to be the strongest way to play Blood Angels, which is a more melee focused variant.
Just all in on the melee.
All jump packs all the time, 35 jump packy boys, 20 Sangard, 5 Death Company, 10 Vanguard vets, bunch of characters. Get there. It's less of a meme than it sounds. It's still a little memey.
It's fun though.
It is fun. That's why I'm taking it to Crucible. It's a fun list. Enjoy it so much. But what were the armies he's playing into?
Tyranids, Chaos Space Marines, and Dark Angels.
Dark Angels. Against Dark Angels, they have a big Terminator brick. Just try and leave 10 Van Vets together. It's the only way you can really kill them. Unfortunately, because you reroll wounds, which accounts for the transhuman effect, and you're already 1 damage, so the -1 damage doesn't have any effect. That was, I'd say, how you beat that. Against Tyranids, you got to get in there quick, because I assume they have Hive Guard, and you got to get in and shut those guns up. But, once you do, the rest of the matchup can be a bit easier.
Yeah, using dense cover to your advantage while you move up the table.
Yes, dense cover, good, because they don't ignore that. What else we got? Looks like we got some more comments going on.
Let's see. We live in a world where 100 Ranger armies with flyers are deleting people at LGT, and complaints as orcs are too strong. Not sure I follow the logic. On LGT terrain, just having more guns wins.
Yes.
So it takes a lot of the nuance out of the games, because you go first and there's just firing lanes everywhere, and you have speed to get the angles you want. You're just gonna table people. The damage in the game right now is just obscene.
Yeah. You basically have 1 ruin in your deployment zone, and that's it. So you're left with a choice at LGT. Either deploy out in the open, so you can actually play for objectives, or deploy all behind your ruin and never get to play for objectives, and you'll get your 5 points every turn, huzzah, but your opponent's going to win the game. So everyone chooses to deploy out there, and then whoever gets first turn just lays the beatdown of a lifetime on their opponent, and then the game's over in like 20 minutes. 40k as G-dubs intended.
Yeah.
On heavier terrain, though, it works a little differently. The all-in shooting AdMech build is, I won't say it's bad. It's certainly much, much, much worse than an LGT.
Yeah. On GW terrain, the only firing angles you get are when you get into the middle of the table, and that's where your opponent can just send AP3 melee units into you, and that'll just pick up infinite amount of Rangers.
Now, on the other hand, orcs are still pretty dumb on GW terrain. In fact, they're dumb on pretty much every kind of terrain.
It's because they have the 2 units that ignore terrain.
Yes, that's right. They have flyers and they have squig boogies.
Indirect fire. The 2 things that 8th edition were, 2 of the most biggest feel bads in 8th edition.
Yep.
Back in 9th edition, once more, Jack.
Back in. No way to avoid it, really. Just the non-interactivity.
That's why I think orcs need to be addressed first and foremost, because it doesn't matter what terrain. They're just going to table people.
Yeah, they're not interactive. They get first turn. And they also force the game into this arms race where, because they can't hide, orcs can't hide. Their bases are too big. No, they just cannot hide from you turn 1. And they will table you no matter where you hide. So everyone's forced into an arms race of trying to go first against the orcs, because if you go first, you can try and cripple them, although they're still really resilient. They can get -1 to hit army wide, 5 up invuln army wide, and they're -1 damage against strength 7 or less. And it's an absolute miserable nightmare to try and eat through that list before it kills you. But it is possible. But you're forced into this arms race, so everyone's forced to play the go first game with orcs, even if they don't want to, even if you've got good terrain. And because people are being forced into a go first style game into orcs, they're also forced into a go first style into other armies that are trying to beat orcs, because the armies that are trying to beat orcs tend to be heavily reliant on shooting, because you can't get there in 1 turn with melee. If you can't get there in 1 turn with melee, you are blown up, my friend. So everyone's taking shooting that's just trying to go first and cripple orcs.
But if you're trying to take shooting that goes first and cripples orcs, you're also taking shooting that goes first and cripples the other armies that are trying to go first and cripple orcs. So it turns the meta somewhat cancerous.
So hopefully they address planes overall. Like AdMech and Orc planes are just far better than the other ones because they have either more efficient guns, extra defensive mechanics. So they definitely need to go up in points and or lose certain abilities.
Planes as transports, awesome. Planes as gunboats
Yeah,
are
like the
either
AdMech
awful, like Tau, or they break the game over their knee, like AdMech and Orcs.
The AdMech transport is terrible. It holds
Good.
6 models.
I'm so sorry.
Even if it was like 80 points, I still
Can't you
wouldn't take
combine that nonsense?
it. You have to run 2 of them, so you're at a 200 plus pointed. It's like 230 points.
But then
to
you can
the
get
two.
10, 12 models even.
You can do a combined landing, Jack.
Yeah, but what happens if one of them dies?
Well, they have to come out of reserve together.
This sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
What else we got?
Hopefully my opponent doesn't scream my combined landing. What other flyer can split fire and kill 2 flyers for 3 CP, to be clear?
What are we talking about?
What other army can split fire and kill 2 flyers for 2 CP, which was really 3 CP?
With 1 unit, that's 165 points.
No, 195.
Oh, because you had to spend the extra points.
Yeah,
'cause-
they're all 2 extra points a model.
Oh, no other army can do that with a 195 point unit, unfortunately, and 3 CP. But armies can blow up 2 flyers fairly reliably if you go first.
Yeah.
That's the key, though, if you go first.
Thanks for the kind words, Joseph. Appreciate that. Drukhari have a higher win rate. Drukhari just get to the top table so easily because all the armies below them, they're pretty much stomping, and then you get hard matchups where the top players are tailoring specifically. Like this list will beat Drukhari. I'm gonna make it so that I'm consistent to beating Drukhari, and that's where they lose games.
Yeah. We also all have a ton of practice into Drukhari, so we all know
So
the
much.
matchup really, really well. Probably better than the Drukhari players know him.
What's the most ideal Thousand Suns list? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It probably is a very slow, grindy list with a bunch of Terminators and Rubrics. And
It's hard because you need speed in this. Like you need to be able to.
just don't got it, my
You
dude.
need at least you need the option for 1 or 2 turns to deny your opponent primary points. And if you don't have that, it's really hard to beat armies that have amazing secondaries built in.
You just don't got that speed, though, my guy. You
'Cause-
can make Terminators go 10 inches.
Most of the easy secondaries are I'm doing something on my opponent's half of the board.
Yeah.
Or I'm sitting here on objectives and I hope my opponent doesn't have speed.
Rod and Stranglehold are both, I need to mess with my opponent's side of the board.
Engage 2.
A lot of the time. Engage 2. Although I think Stranglehold's generally better for most armies than
Generally.
Engage. But you usually have to at least be able to play it with a halfway point, like turn 1.
Yeah.
And they just can't do that. I think Spawn are good, if a little bit of a trap, just because if you make your whole army spawn, it falls apart really,
You have to put buffs on them.
really fast. And then you're not putting buffs on the rest of your army, and I think you end up with an army that is a bunch of Terminators that like just grinds their way up the board, and you do a bunch of mortal wounds, and you shoot a bit, and it's just fine.
It's just the problem of not enough stuff.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I mean,
Grey
if you want
Knights-
to lean into your amazing characters, you got to spend like 600 points on characters, and that's too many points.
Yeah. Grey Knights have the shooting from range and they have the speed advantage.
And then also they can just do like 10d3 mortal wounds randomly.
They could. But that's not how Grey Knights are really built. Whereas
Right.
Thousand Suns need to lean into the psychic powers more because they don't have as much other stuff.
Every army has like a 5-up against mortal wounds now. It's absurd. I go into matchups and just like, oh yeah, army wide I have 5-up against mortal wounds. I'm like, interesting.
Interesting.
Like I
Sometimes
played
when you have your Cenobite servers, it's a 4-up.
that broke some people when I played them. They just like, I have a 4 feeling pain against mortal wounds, and I can heal 3 twice and res a guy every turn. So good luck.
Do you think Helldrakes help in the plane meta?
Helldrakes? No.
They don't do enough, honestly. They
They
aren't
really
bad. They
don't.
got better.
They did get a lot better. I still think they get absolutely pooped on by.
There's so much shooting in the game. When you
Yeah.
bring flyers, they need to have either some extra defensive mechanic or they need to be cheap where it's, fine, I can lose
Because
it.
A, you're not charging them turn 1. I know you think you are. You have the movement. You mathed out in your head. You're going to charge on turn 1 with your Helldrake, but you're not, because they would just put anything near the Helldrake, and all of a sudden you can't charge it. So that's the biggest deal. And the Helldrake just doesn't do that much damage in shooting. So if you go first, you're not getting all your damage off against their enemy flyers. But if you go second, AdMech flyers and the Wazbomb Blastajets will just annihilate a Helldrake. Like, it's ain't no thing.
It's like,
And-
please, can you just tone your fire down just a little bit?
Why do they get 2d6 Dark Lance shots?
2d6 is absurd.
Yeah, it's bananas.
And it's blast.
And it's blast, so here's 12 sometimes. Yeah, it's like a truck made out of smaller trucks. It's absurd.
Also, it's natively Ballistic Skill 4.
if it
Can we
was
talk about that?
if it was damage anything, if it was, and it also doesn't degrade to 6. That's the real
Really?
funny part. It's 4/5/5.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's very clear that it originally was 5/6/6 with +1, and somebody in GW whose favorite crayon flavor is red thought that it would just be the same thing if they made it 4/5/5, and it certainly
It's
isn't.
not when you add freebooters and you proc hitting on 3s.
Yes.
It's not where you want to be.
Yeah, that's not.
Also, can we just talk about the what is it? The Dragsta hitting on 2s with freebooters? We don't need orcs hitting on 2s.
Yeah, and the Squig Buggies natively hitting on 4s
Yeah.
are setting. So the thing is, they'll never hit worse than a 4 because it's not hard to proc that first hit because the Squig Buggies hit on 4s natively, which means they fire the first shots, they get the first kills, the rest of the army hits on 4s and 3s, and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like you're being hit by orcs anymore.
Yeah, and if they have dense cover over there, you fly the planes around so they don't take the dense cover penalty, and then you let the Squig Buggies get +2 to hit,
Yeah,
and then it doesn't matter.
yeah. Oh, yeah, your dense cover and your smoke and whatever. I'm +3 to hit. Let's just try that. Yeah, it's absurd. Because they hit on numbers they're not supposed to hit on, and then they still have the fire.
The volume.
The volume of fire as if they hit on 5s and 6s, and they just don't. Like 7 missiles and 20 strength 6 shots out of each 90-point scrapjet is actually absurd. Like, who let that go through? Seriously.
Yeah. I don't mind having one Volkite on the GW terrain, because even though the angles aren't great, it's when you have those middle objectives or like battle lines on the sides or even Scorched Earth, you can help finish off something on your opponent's objectives without having to commit every character that way.
Yeah.
One
yeah,
isn't
I
bad.
like having some shooting. I definitely like that. I mean, you get a lot of shooting out of the Terminators in that list.
Yeah, if you have the full break of Terminators, then you probably don't need it, honestly. Do you think your Deathwatch list is stronger than ever in the Orc AdMech Flyer meta? And would you change anything?
It is and it isn't. So the reason it is that it has a bevy of wonderful targets in the meta at the moment.
Yeah.
The Flyers you get +1 to hit against with Vorkon Pyrospicator. You definitely take that now. And then you get a lot of reroll wounds into buggies. You shoot really hard. It's all damage 3 and whatnot. So that's nice. And then it isn't because the Volkites don't do anything to orcs. They go from damage 2 to damage 1, which really sucks. But the second part is the Deathwatch list thrived on being in a meta where it was the shootiest army around. It was the hardest punching shooting army that was in the game. And it is not anymore. It's not even close, actually. Into AdMech, into orcs, you will lose the shooting war even though you shoot fantastically hard. Which means if you go first, you have a game into a lot of those armies. And if you go second, you're going to get wiped out like you would not believe. And that kind of matchup means it is solid. You want a good shooting army, and it is a great shooting army. But you're forced into the go first win style matchup. And you can tailor for orcs and AdMech by taking out your Volkite Contemptors, maybe replacing them with different kinds of Contemptors. Like
Plasma Cannon Contemptors, Jack.
But actually, maybe.
Seriously. Blast?
Seriously. Blast, 3 damage, I think. Maybe they're 2 damage. I've never looked at them. But yeah, you can change them up, maybe multi-meltas or las cannons if you're feeling spicy. But you're forced into a go first win, which none of us are happy with.
That doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Anything that takes reduces player skill.
Yeah, we're not.
There's several problems. I used orcs in Vegas and it felt wrong 6-0 and had one tough game.
That sounds right. I mean, the lists have only gotten dumber in the last week.
Yeah.
They've gone from
You don't need
half
9 squig
counters.
buggies.
Yeah, you don't need 9. We thought you did, but they've gone from losing some games to just blowing people out of the water no matter what, and that's not great. I can only look forward to when skill rigs are involved.
Oh god, the skill rig. Not the skill rig. Does everything, Jack.
It's so skill and so much rig. What am I supposed to do? It's the kill rigs are absurd. their stats are actually crazy. Orcs can't buy a good stratagem to save their life, but fine. Glue. They can't buy a good stratagem, but oh man, do they have some good data sheets.
So hopefully they've been paying attention to the meta for the past couple weeks. Because if they just tone down the flyers, tone down the indirect, we're not in a horrible spot. There's still some armies that need to be bumped up or get a codex or need a lot of love like Necrons.
Yeah.
But
It's really just the outliers that are doing the damage right now, and if they bring those back in line, or even just a little bit, it would help.
you don't want to be tabled when you're behind terrain.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that is
the
not
main-
where you want to be.
You go second. You're on GW terrain, which is the densest terrain that has ever existed in 40k up to this point, and you're still tabled turn 1 by a shooting army.
Yeah, I think that was the
is-
biggest eye opener with
that
John
is a
playing
big
against Mark.
he was playing a melee army that is very durable, and he was hiding his whole army turn 1. He got tabled, and it was just woof. That's not good. That's a bad place for the army to be, especially when it's, as I said, it's the heaviest terrain that has ever existed. I can only imagine an LGT. My God.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And orcs are supposed to be a Crumpen faction.
They're supposed to be good in combat, and they went from only good in shooting to really only good in shooting, and it's sad.
They need buffs elsewhere, to be fair.
They do. All their combat and their infantry and nonsense is just too pricey and not good enough.
They didn't get as many buffs to help them out.
But what that means is that you're sad when you try and play against their buggies.
Why did they have to have units of 3?
Why do they have to have units of up to 3?
Like,
That's the part that really kills me. It's like, why can you take 9 squig buggies and 9 scrap jets? That's...
it felt like it needed like a character lock or something. Like you needed to take this certain character, like a big mech, to unlock, more than one. For like a certain amount of big mechs would unlock extra ones.
Something. There's just too much redundancy in there as well. Like, if there was only one good unit, if only scrap jets or only squig buggies were good, that's one thing. But we're looking at kill rigs are good, scrap jets are really good, squig buggies. God, I know the names of all these stupid buggies now.
The Boom Blast to Snazwagon.
Okay, there's one I don't.
I played against it.
But these are all the Key and Peele East-West Bowl sketch names. And I have to... now I know all of them.
They're so wild.
They're so stupid.
The guns are even dumber.
I don't know.
The gun
Why
names.
is a squig being thrown at you AP3? It's literally a squig
Well,
that's
it's going
just
so fast,
particularly
Jack.
angry.
It's being sent at such a velocity that it hits harder than a blade guard. It hits as hard as a blade guard.
As hard as a blade guard in combat. Yes.
Just throwing blade guard swords at you.
The
Here
squig
comes
just
my relic
holding
blade.
a faster crafted power sword
Yeah.
in its teeth, just stabbing everywhere.
Do you guys prefer WTC or GW terrain?
GW.
I prefer the GW terrain. I don't like as many small L's, honestly, because they really reduce mobility of certain units. Whereas these ones, you can play, more Dreadnought heavy armor. We saw a bunch of like Iron Hands lists with a bunch of Dreadnoughts and a Land Raider even
Yeah.
be able to get into the center of board and actually interact with the terrain up there. But if you have so many small L's, then it's a little harder. I still like the WTC terrain a lot.
Yeah, WTC is fine. I don't have a problem with it.
I like that. I especially like it for team environment where the boards are actually quite varied in the amount of dense cover, light cover, how many large versus small ruins there are in the board. I think WTC offers amazing flexibility for team events, which obviously that's what it's designed for the World Team Championships. I prefer GW for singles events though. The consistency of a standard terrain format.
Yeah, and it is very, very consistent. Even at an old Nova or things with a very dedicated terrain layout, you'd show up to a table and just be different in a way that doesn't work. But the GW is incredibly standard. Every single table is identical, and that helps quite a lot.
You know what you're going in for.
You know exactly what you're
You
doing.
don't have a bad match. All of a sudden you play against another top player and they have an advantage in the matchup. But that advantage becomes dramatic because you're playing on a light terrain board.
Yeah, I played Genestealer Cult at Nova, a terrain setup that at the time was very heavy, and it just, oops, the particular board you're playing on has no line of sight obscuring your deployment zone. Guess sucks to suck.
And then I played against
That
Chris
sucked.
Blackham and John Lennon with my Tau list, and I was like, won the roll-off pregame Jack, pick table sides. John
Again, this man has described that list as chess to me.
It is chess.
He had the audacity.
It is chess. That Tau list is hard to play. None of you other people won with it. And
None
you
of us tried.
You did try.
I didn't
You
try.
brought it to an event. That is trying.
I did not play the good version of the list.
I
played, in
tried
fact,
to help
as bad a version of a list as you could physically take.
You said it was better than mine, and you ran with it, and then got...
I know not what I speak of. Oh, it is interesting how people have figured out how to take shooting armies to the GW style terrain. Because at Orlando, shooting armies did not. Oh, shut up! You took a melee army to Orlando.
I know I did.
Yeah, everyone who was doing well was.
I didn't
showing
wanna
up
play
with,
shooting
with
army.
melee,
I didn't
and now
It was MSU trading with a bit of shooting. Just enough shooting so your opponent
just
had
so
to
you
respect
know,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. And then now this event had a lot more shooting.
Yeah, people are figuring out how to make it work. Although I think that if you see buggies and you see planes toned down, you're going to go back to that kind of MSU tradey style matchup. That's just honestly just more fun. Like in my opinion, it's just more fun.
Yeah, I enjoy that style more. I prefer playing the Metallica list,
Well,
which is why I'm building.
too bad you have to blow people off the board.
That's why I'm building 4 more Rust Stalkers so that I can get that sweet max 30.
My man is just trolling me all day over here.
I mean, come on, Jack. Like, are Rust Stalkers not such a fun unit to play against?
No.
They just come in there with their razor blades and just pick up units.
I have been bad touched by them real hard.
It's one of the few units Jack is scared of in combat.
Yeah, I literally described my matchup into AdMech with the Black Templars as 1 Ruststalker unit, fine. 0, awesome. 2, 3, please no. Please do not pair me into that.
Especially the Metallica version with reroll wounds.
They just hit so hard. Why do they hit so hard, Seeks?
I just want to dump 51 attacks on you. And then
Why do they have
Warclaw.
2 separate strats for +1 attack?
They're veterans.
I understand what you're telling me on an intellectual level.
You know, I thought Advance in Charge would be the one I use the most often, but it's 100% the +1 attack. I use that multiple times. I barely ever
Use it multiple times a phase. You have 2
Not a phase.
+1 attack.
Yeah, so
strats.
I stack both of them, typically.
Yes. So, I mean, a 2 CP
Yeah,
strat
when I-
for +2 attacks is quite frankly.
When James brought up his Talos, I was like, all right, here we go. 26 Ruststalkers in your face. Fight last on the Talos. Boom. Pick it all up. -1 damage does not matter against that.
But they're underpowered, right, Siegs? That's what you're saying.
I didn't
Only
say they're
you've managed to.
I didn't
make
say
them
they're
work.
underpowered. I said it takes a lot of skill. Takes a lot of skill.
You actually did tell me they were underpowered. Don't come at me with that.
I didn't believe that. But
My man moving the goalposts over here.
it's very easy to troll Jack.
Yeah, I kind of lean into it.
You lean into it,
I
and
lean
it's just
into
fun.
it. Yeah.
Yes, Admech are a strong army.
I need that as a ringtone.
They're a strong army.
Thanks. Thanks, Siegs.
They take a lot of skill, though. I mean, seriously, if Admech was that broken, though, you would see it just you would see it dominating top, 4s, top 8s.
It is dominating top
It-
4s and top 8s.
It's dominating top 1s with me and Malik, Manny.
I hate you.
My brother's in the UK. Doing the Lord's work, the Omnissiah's work, right?
Your brother could win with AdMech. He doesn't play 40k, but he could win with AdMech.
He really would.
He really would.
Come on, we gave Blake Admech plus Majeras, and he didn't win.
Right, because it's not all AdMech. that was our mistake. You need to go full dumb.
Looking forward to your game tomorrow, Jack, but I have to say, it ain't noob friendly, your list. What tweaks could I make to play that Blood Angels list and make it a little easier to play?
Add shooting in. That's the main thing. So probably add some Redemptors. I don't love that change, but you can do it. Adding some shooting in is... Being able to compensate for not having shooting with board control is the main issue. It's the main part of the list is hard.
Yeah.
Being able to force people to come to you just using your board positioning, that's the difficult part. So if you're not able to do that consistently, then probably adding in some Redemptors would help. Maybe some Eradicators. I don't love that. That sounds bad. Some Inceptors. God, this is just going from bad to worse. I would say Redemptors. Go with like Patrol Vanguard and then add in some Redemptors, and then you'll make me cry, but you might have more success with it.
We got a $5 super chat from Tim Penny. What do current orc lists drop to fit in the kill rigs? Do you take 2 or make to make losing a pour worth it?
I think you just take 3.
I think 2 is enough, honestly. So here's some context. Thank you so much for the super chat, Tim. We tested a triple kill rig list for Las Vegas teams. It was triple kill rig. How many squig buggies was it?
It was like
8.
Yeah, it was like 8 and then
8
like
and
3 scrap jets.
3 scrap jets, and then it had a couple units of Storm Boys and Commandos.
That list felt strong.
It had the Death Kill Wartrike and the Big Mech. So it had all the tools. You basically just shove the kill rigs into the center of the board, in front of your army.
The what rigs?
The skill rigs.
The
skill rigs. They have giant bases. They're in front of the army. They're soaking up mortal wounds when you need to, and they are going to kill a bunch of stuff in combat because they have obscene combat abilities. Plus, they have access to the the orc equivalent of tremor shells with their indirect fire. So 48-inch indirect fire that can tremor shell you. So you just slow down the key target. Whatever's going to hit you the hardest, slow them down turn after turn, and you pump out psychic powers onto the middle of the table.
And they're an excellent way to get the freebooters train rolling because they auto hit and they have psychic powers.
Yep.
So you weaken something up with psychic powers, fire D3 las cannon shots into it that auto hit.
Yep.
And shot that hits on a 4 with a reroll, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, everything else is hitting on 4s and ignores negative modifiers now. And it's just like.
I would drop 1 and drop 2 of the squig buggies to add the 2 WASBomb jets if we were to change the list.
I do really like the WASBomb jets.
So that's the change I would make, and I think that 2 kill rigs, 2 WASBomb jets.
2 what?
2 skill rigs.
Thank you.
2 WASBomb jets, and then have like 5 squig buggies, the 3 and the 2 man. I think that's enough, honestly. And then some scrap jets around and the MSU infantry. That's a super strong list. That's hard to deal with because if you're putting your anti-tank into the the scrap jets and the planes, the skill rigs are just doing what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And the nice part about skill rigs is if your opponent does try and touch you, all your buggies are actually good in combat. They just hit on 4s. What if they hit on 3s, though? That's what I'm saying.
If you pop freebooters in combat.
What if the skill rig that's actually good in combat can pick something up in combat, and then all your buggies that they're trying to hold up in combat now hit on 3s?
You don't want to see it.
You do not want to see it.
That is just absurd.
Yeah. I believe Asher was asking me about my thoughts on the new vows. I think the 2 vows they've shown so far are limited in application. Most combats don't get past the first round, so always treating it as though you have charged is fine. I think it's not great. I think it's fine. If that's the best one, I think Black Templars might be in for some trouble. I'm looking forward to the other 2. Always counting as an assault doctrine is nice. It's not bad. It is good. But it's certainly not as good as some armies like Space Wolves or Blood Angels, where they get a lot of value out of their always counting as assault doctrine. If Black Templars do something different with their assault doctrine, even if they just remove the not against vehicles rider that their trait has, where it auto wounds on 6s to hit, which is nice, except not against vehicles, which is when you care. So if they remove that rider, then that vow gets a lot stronger. But if it stays exactly the same way it is, unfortunately, I think that vow is just not that strong. But especially since Crusader Helm lets you put a unit into Assault Doctrine anyway if you care about it. But maybe that's getting a change. So who knows? I'm really looking forward to the other 2 vows.
What about the Holy Orb they previewed?
I did not see that, actually.
Oh, let's pull it up.
It's live reactions.
Let's pull it up.
I heard about it, but I was on my way over here, so
you wanted access to Fight Last without bringing a Judiciar.
No.
So here you go.
Because Judiciars suck. Really bad. Let's see what we got. Black Templar Relic Bearers.
So you can upgrade a unit to have a Relic Bearer in it. So by swearing vows to a chaplain on the eve of the battle, Black Templars can become an honored Relic Bearer. Blah, blah, blah. So if your army includes any Black Templar chaplain units, which
it probably will.
Please.
Please.
For each Black Templar's infantry or biker unit, excluding character units from your army, you can select one upgrade from the list below to give that unit. Each upgrade must be unique, And then once selected, that upgrade must be allocated to a particular model who must be distinctive.
That's really cool. I really like that.
Here's the first one they previewed. Once per battle in your shooting phase, you select one enemy unit within 6 invisible to the model. Roll 1d6. On a 2-up, they suffer d3 mortals and their fighting
Oh,
lives.
that is hot. That is hot.
Yep.
Yeah,
That
I
seems
like that.
You're going to get that in lists.
That is going to find its way in. I mean, unless it's like 30 points. But even then, maybe.
It might be 30 points. Like, honestly, they've priced the good ones as 30 points.
Yeah.
But it might find a way in. Fight last without having to spend on the Judiciar or a Whirlwind for Space Marines.
pretty hot.
Pretty damn powerful.
Pretty damn powerful.
Like, imagine it's just on a Blade Guard Sergeant or something.
Yeah, you just run up there and you're like, sup.
Or the Terminators.
And you can advance and do it too, which is super hot.
Yep.
Icon of Heinemann.
This is also good. Each time an attack with an armor penetration of 1 or 2 is allocated to the model.
Terminator.
Yeah, this is
Terminator,
0.
get in there.
Yep. It's good.
Or just on a Blade Guard. Actually, because Terminators kind of ignore AP -1 and 2 anyway, because they have a 1-up save a lot of time in cover.
Yeah, the Storm Shields.
Yeah.
So, I think both of them are really good.
Yeah, so you just take that on a Blade Guard Sergeant.
They're on a model, so the model can eventually die, but,
I mean,
it's the same thing as the Crisis unit. I take that because it is amazing. It can tank so much extra damage.
no, I like both of those. Both of those are really good. I mean, obviously, we'll see what the points are, and that's going to determine ultimately whether they're worth it or not, but I am mega excited for that. Uber excited, as one might say. Anything else we got, or are those the only two we know of?
Do you think Space Wolves have a place in the current meta, and would you recommend Hunter's List or Jaime's List to start?
I think they have a place in the current meta. I think they're really more of a relic of last meta, though, because the current get shot off the board turn 1 meta is not particularly kind to Space Wolves. It's just not. They're not durable enough. They're not fast enough. They're just good at being nonsense in the center of the board. And I would say I like Jaime's old list a little better than his current list, but I'm not a Space Wolf savant, so I don't know.
He basically dropped that Librarian in order to gain access to... he dropped the Librarian and the Volkite, right? The Contemptor?
He did. So he went down to 2 Redemptors, and then he has a bunch of nonsense.
And they don't have the invuln or the count as in cover because
Or the -1 to be hit.
Because he wants access to Abhor the Witch against Thousand Suns and Grey Knights.
Which I think he should rickroll.
He's probably
Grey Knights
overestimating the power of those armies. Maybe Grey Knights is a problem.
But I mean, the best thing you can do against Grey Knights is not open up. Well, opening up Abhor is not bad. But the best thing you can do against that is treat all of your guys as though they're in cover and make them all -1 to be hit, because Grey Knights is a shooting army pretty much.
Yeah.
But I like his old list actually quite a bit. It's not bad.
Somebody's saying the 2 vows shown are apparently the weaker ones.
That is good, because I am going to be all in on Black Templars, and I am hoping to just vow the hell out of some people.
Are suppressors ever good? They are good in Ultramarines because they can count as stationary and they offer speed to a list that typically doesn't have it outside of land storms.
Agreed.
So it gives you options for retrieve Octarius data, and it gives you long range shooting that counts as stationary. So they're actually pretty darn efficient.
Yeah, they're not. They're really not bad. They shoot pretty.
But
hard.
Ultramarines have the best buffs for them. They're not bad in Iron Hands either.
I recommend them basically in every Ultramarines list, because otherwise you just don't have speed.
Yeah, and you do need speed. Like we're talking about, the armies that just sit there, they're just not going to win big tournaments because you're going to play the army that has the speed advantage, and they will deny you primary points.
You need something that can reach out and touch your opponent.
Yep. Revive the model with the Apothecary if you lose it.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna be doing that to some fools.
Maybe the rules won't allow you to regen the model, but who knows?
I hope not. That would be
that seems
cool
like
way
a
to-
really clever, careful thing to consider, and I doubt they considered that.
No, I guarantee you they did not. I mean, I think it would be way cooler, speaking as a Black Templars guy, if they let you do that.
Terrain, I think, plays a lot into how Space Wolves would play. Definitely, definitely.
It does.
I mean-
as we were talking about, though, the current meta armies kind of ignore the terrain, which is not fun. I think Space Wolves have a lot of power in them. Hopefully, when the nerfs that people are expecting to come, hopefully they come. When they come, I think that Space Wolves will be right back in there.
What do you think Brad could have done differently in the game against New Orleans? Brad played his butt off. He played the best game he could have possibly played.
That does not bode well for his chances.
So, a lot of things did swing in his favor, like the Archon making 6 out of 6 5-up invulns
You
to
love
keep
to see
himself
it.
alive.
You love to see it.
And then killing the entire unit of Ruststalkers that
Oh,
was gonna get me Stranglehold and Direct Assault
But
that
they
turn.
didn't because they're dead.
They didn't because they died, and he lived because I couldn't consolidate onto the objective. So even if he didn't kill the whole unit, I still wouldn't have got it. But that was a big swing.
No.
And then he made some long barm charges, which Drukhari can just do that. But if you're planning on the 10s and 11s on charges, you definitely could be in a bad spot if you fail them.
Yeah, I mean
He tried his best. I think what he should have done even more is, because he was going to go for that style anyway, is just turn 1, put everything behind those 2 little ruins. And if stuff is sticking out, whatever. You're hitting me with everything turn 2 and just keep me pinned. Because I took Stranglehold and Direct Assault, if you try and play the trading game with me, I'm just going to get the points pretty much guaranteed. His best chance was to just flood my deployment zone with as much stuff as possible, making it impossible for me to get Direct Assault and Stranglehold for 2 turns in a row. That would have been his best chance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Instead, he sent a wave, and I can deal with waves, no problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really showing you sometimes that the scariest thing to play against is someone who knows they're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and just is like,
Screw it, we're going.
We're just gonna be in your deployment zone. If you kill me fast enough, I lose. If you can't, I actually win this game, and I might get tabled, but I'll still deny you enough points.
Like, can't you just play a KG game where you certainly lose by 10 points?
Yeah.
Can you please do that? And they're like, no, I'm just gonna go all in.
I'm
like,
good. But honestly, that's what I would have done. Also with the Raiders, they should have just been behind the terrain. Who cares? Move advance them up. They don't need to shoot the
What
flyers.
did they get killed by?
They got-
His Raiders.
His Raiders.
Did he shoot at your flyers, not do anything?
Yes.
You do hate to see it.
Yeah.
James Kelling fired 2 lance shots at my knight, the only 2 he had in his arm, and he did 11 wounds. And I was deeply sad.
You don't want to see that.
You do not want to see a knight that's pretty safe goes from 24 to 6 off of that, and one character that only wins on 6 charging and bouncing out of combat. You really do not, in fact, love to see it.
Yeah, if you're new to 40k overall and just playing Blood Angels, you can definitely go for a more balanced list, because your goal shouldn't be to just win GT straight out of the bat. Just get practice with the army, know Blood Angel rules inside and out, and then start understanding the broader meta. And from there, you can start tweaking your list to try and help you with your goal, which can be to have a winning record at an event. Then it can be to go 4-1, then try and win a GT. So do it in stages, and you can help your list can evolve to meet those goals.
Because if your goals are unrealistic starting out, then what's going to happen is you're going to be disappointed. And if you're disappointed, even with good performances, like even with a really good performance for your first tournament out, you're going to be sad. And what that means is you're not going to play as much, and it's going to be a negative feedback loop of never getting better.
Yeah, this game has a really high skill barrier. Like once you pass the barrier, in understanding how to beat your opponents, how to understand your local meta, how to build lists. Once you get past all that, then you're in a good spot. But it takes a bit. It takes a lot of effort to get to that point.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a steep learning curve in just getting smashed, and that happened to me. John Lennon smashed me several times in a row, sent me straight to school, and that helped me become a much better player.
Yeah,
much quicker.
Yeah,
So try and play the best people that you know in your local meta.
Yep. And then after each game, if you lose, why did I lose that game?
Yep.
What could I have done differently?
Definitely need to be harsh on the self-analysis. What do Necrons need? A lot of stuff. Their army-wide rule is terrible. Their units are overcosted and they're slow. Their shooting is terrible. It's just a bad army. They are a bad army.
Are they as bad as Admech, or what are we talking about here?
No, they're not even. Admech are not a bad army. Never said that.
You did.
I never said
You were
they-
trolling me, but you said it.
Admech are not a bad army. They're really
You
good.
said we had to make a cap on the ride home of how many times you could say that.
I didn't say they were bad. I said they took a lot of skill.
No, you said they were underpowered. you goalpost moving liar. We literally told you on the ride home you get 3 times to say Admech are underpowered before you're getting just jumped. The next time we go out for gas. And
These guys are
you,
somehow...
you saved your last one in the bank, which I respect that. You only did it twice.
These guys really, really get upsetty spaghetti about the Admech.
Well, we have to lose to it every goddamn tournament. Every single one. It's like, oh, he's just going to go through each of us one at a time. It's awesome.
Were there chess clocks to the GW top tables? No, they did not have chess clocks. Instead, how they run the events is that for each milestone, they basically wrote out in the schedule itself how much time you should take for each, deployment, turn 1, turn 2, etc., where you should be in that 3-hour span, and they call that out over the PA system. So they'll say like something like, "You should be finishing round 1 right now. If you're not, come call a judge." If you're usually not at the end of round 1, but like end of round 3, if you're not at the end of round 3, you either need to speed up or call a judge over to make sure the game that finishes.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, the way that they were dealing with chess clocks was you could use a chess clock.
Yeah, you can use a chess
You can use it, but if your opponent runs out of time and then you're like, you have to stop playing the game now, and your opponent's like, but I don't want to, the judge will not come over and enforce it. So
Yeah,
it's not, you really just can't do it.
it's a thing for helping you keep on time and to show like, hey, this if your opponent is out of time and you have an hour left, like, okay,
Yeah.
there's a steep difference in what's going on here. So to provide context, but I didn't see any issues with slow playing.
No.
And if you come over and tell the judge like, hey, we're at bottom of 3 and it's taking this long, they'll help you.
No, the
figure-
milestone system worked remarkably well. I was very happy with it.
Pretty much everybody wants to finish games.
Pretty
so
much, yeah.
I haven't seen anybody trying to slow play or anything, which is good because that's just a silly thing.
Yeah, slow playing has always been just really the. Yeah.
How overcosted are Doom scythes? I don't want flyers to be in the game personally, so I don't mind if they stay expensive, but they're probably like 20 points overcosted. They have some of the better shooting Necrons has. They're just on a flyer platform that dies instantly. Mark Perry seems to have given up on using something other than the freebooters plus buggies train, or seem to lackluster once you remove them.
Yeah, I mean,
Their infantry needs buffs. I would love if their nerf system involved a nerf to the speed wall stuff and increased the power of their infantry so that boys were actually good. Because Orclist should have boys.
They should. and
They shouldn't have a
don't.
bunch of Gretchen running the show.
11-man Gretchen sometimes.
And forget about the 11, the ones that are in the buggies.
Yeah.
Like, why are these the stars of the orc show?
Yep.
But
Yeah, yeah. They just, I mean, my evaluation of orcs went from when they came out and we played them a couple times, I thought they were C tier. Then I got, I got a new appreciation. I thought they were B tier. And then the orc buggy list caught on in the last week, they're S tier. And it's just, that's not a good
there's
dichotomy
very few
to
armies
have.
that can beat it.
Yeah. It's just like I play almost the Blood Angel list that I'm playing to Crucible, I cannot beat Mark. Unless it's sweep and clear and I charge him turn 1 and I get first turn. I can't beat Mark. I'm just going into the event knowing that. And that's not great. So nerf, please, yes.
How many death you can only use the strat once, right, for Death Company?
Yeah.
That's
You
unfortunate.
can't take
You can't take like
50 Death Company.
3 units of them and just be like, hope I go first. Boom.
I think you could take them in units of up to 20. Not sure why you do that, but maybe you could take
No,
60.
15 has to be the max.
Maybe it's 15.
There's no way it's 20.
Take 45 Death Company, charge him turn 1. I mean, that would end the game.
Yeah.
You could put each of them into Assault Doctrine.
Yeah.
1 CP, 1 CP, or free,
2.
1 CP, and then 2 CP. And then you just like, all of them have 1,000,000 attacks, all of them are +1 to wound. Get them, boys.
That would be
But
a
that
list.
would be not legal.
Yeah. If the AdMech list runs through all the top players at events, what would you design as the best list to beat it?
Dude, I don't know. If you think of one, you let me know, please.
Jack will sign up for your coaching.
Yes. I mean, that's a little bleak. You can build armies that have play into AdMech.
Most AdMech players lose.
That is getting dangerously close to saying they're underpowered. Seeds.
Most AdMech players lose.
My main
their
issue
win rate
isn't
their win
against-
rate this last weekend was 50%.
That's a stat that blows my goddamn mind.
50%, Jack.
No.
We're getting to even.
No.
We're getting to even on the AdMech.
See, here's the thing though. I am not worried about most AdMech players. Like I can build lists that beat most AdMech players. Don't take this to mean they're underpowered Siegs. I don't want to hear anything out of you about that. But I'm worried about Siegs because I know he's not going to make big mistakes. And I know he's just not.
Which is where the player skill comes in. Like if you take the faction to the best it could be played.
You know what? I'm good with this conversation.
Let's go down the full rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
Has somebody built a kill rig yet? We bought a bunch of custom stuff like a week before they announced pre-orders for it.
Yeah,
So-
that was not the best money we've ever spent.
We were gonna convert up kill rigs for Las Vegas teams, and then the following week they were like, up for pre-order. And then the
Like-
Games Workshop New Orleans event had like 50 kill rigs
Ready for sale.
ready for sale.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They had
They know.
as much space to orcs and their buggies as they did for the rest of 40K combined.
Yeah,
And it was...
they know about skill rigs.
I see the future, and it is skill rig.
Our Grey Knights on the hype train at the moment, they're good. They're doing very well overall in the meta. They have a strong build. Outside of that build, I'm more skeptical on Grey Knights,
I mean,
frankly.
they have like 5 units, which
Yeah,
kind of
they-
sucks.
They need more data. They have like the Custodes problem where
Yeah.
you get the best units and it's like, all right, these are in the list. What combination of them is up to me? But those are the units.
Yeah, I mean, the main issue is that, and then they have no Forge World presence. But their list is actually really cool. Like, what it can do is actually a lot of fun. And it's very dynamic. But yeah, they need more units, man. They basically just have Interceptors, Strikes, and Dread Knights. And that is not... That's going to get old.
It's good.
It's
but
good,
one
it's
way to play.
dynamic, it's fun even. They just need more units.
Jack, if you were to tailor for orcs specifically with Blood Angels, what would you bring? You just had to beat Mark like 9 times in a row. What are we bringing?
Okay, I don't think there's any way to get it past a go first win stores scenario. I don't really, realistically. Either that or you're going to build a list that's so bad that you're never going to get to Mark if you want to get past go first win. And in reality, I don't think there's anything in the book that just lives through his shooting. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. For now, again, there's got to be nerfs that come out.
There has to.
But if you wanted to go for a go first win style scenario, you would take all of the shooting: 3 Redemptors, 2 Contemptors with something that damages planes like las cannons and missiles and nonsense like that. And you take a Librarian to give them all 5 up invuln, and then you warm up your dice roll in hand, just rolling that go first die over and over again before you get to the event.
Big
And
dice for big numbers.
Big dice for big numbers, and then you take a unit of Death Company as well, because you go first, you want to win even harder, and there you go, you get them into your opponent's lines, you rip them in half. That would
It's
be what I
shooting.
would take.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's a very good list in general.
It weakens you into a lot of matchups.
It really does. There are plenty of armies where you just...
It's because Blood Angels don't do shooting buffs.
They just don't. They do shooting buffs the worst out of any army, which is fine because your combat is actually really good. It's really, really strong. The other solution would be to play Sweep and Clear and go first. If I play him on Sweep and Clear, I can beat him.
And Games Workshop events have 2 times you play
Yep,
and Clear.
a quarter of all the games are Sweep and Clear. And if I play him on Sweep and Clear, we start right next to each other. And if I go first, I'm charging him with my whole army. Not an exaggeration. I am charging him with my whole army.
Will we ever see Black Templars or White Scars on stream? 100%. Jack has been painting his Black Templars.
I do. I actually took all my own models, mostly, to the Las Vegas team tournament. There were a couple of characters that I borrowed. But that's being worked on when the new book comes out. You better believe there's going to be Black Templars aplenty on that stream. There's just going to be Templars left, right, and center.
New Templars.
New Templars, Jack Templars, the Snack Templars, everywhere.
All right. Are you all good, Jack?
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right. Well,
Pretty much.
thanks everybody for joining us today. Hope you had fun discussing all the wonderful things going on in the game right now. Hopefully, Games Workshop has seen these several events in a row, which are just dominated by armies that don't give you a chance. When you get in table neutral opponent zone, like I said, you got to do something about that.
See,
So
yeah, there was the thing about Drukhari but at least they're interactive. When they came out, at least they interacted with you,
Yeah.
close to you.
They
They were
have-
broken at
They
it.
have 20 more things than you, but
But they just
you get to
hit you
kill
like
some
a
stuff.
bag of hammers. But at least they had to get close to you to do it. And if you go first, like if they go first, it actually kind of sucks for them.
Yeah.
But now it's just if they go first, you just better luck next
So.
time, Chief.
yeah, the meta right now might not be the most fun, might not be the best, but hopefully they try and do something before chapter approved, and we don't get to sit with this for a couple months.
Yeah, I really do believe that they're going to change this.
Yeah.
I really do. And
Yeah.
then the meta will be way
You could see all
healthier.
the Games Workshop employees at New Orleans were watching the games and looking at the meta games,
like what have we done?
and they were like, "This isn't it. This is not it."
Not it, Chief.
So I think we're gonna see an FAQ.
I am so happy we could make High Marahal a thing. Because that was just a thing in this house, and now it's a thing. Now we can share it with you guys. This wonderful, wonderful
The High Marahal.
High Marahal. Now I actually want that jersey.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Legendary. The unique. He's the highest of the Marahals. I think they will. But for Necrons, I don't think they're doing anything about Necrons,
Nope.
unfortunately. The last chapter proved was dismal in the fact that Necrons got points increases when they needed drops.
I don't really
I don't think they understand. They don't understand why Necrons are bad, and they're really bad. John putting them in B tier was just ridiculous. They were worse than Tau. Worse than Tau. I will
Tau
win
have one
90%
build that's
of games
good,
with Tau.
and Necrons have one build that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Tau builds, yes, there's not a lot of options there, but man, it can still win games against top armies. If you can beat Drukhari, you have a shout to beat a lot of things.
Yeah. And I don't think Necrons really have a shot to beat
No.
Drukhari.
But speaking of Drukhari, we've got a Drukhari game coming up. Jack playing his Blood Angels. He's playing into Drukhari. He says he's going to crush Nick once again with the Blood Angels.
Yeah, I'm going for a hat trick, see.
Going for the hat trick.
I'm not just going to beat the man, I'm going to table the man. Because
Beat the brakes off of him.
Beat the brakes off him. I'm going to just wipe the man out. I have him firmly in my pocket, and that is where he's going to stay.
Then in the War Room, we're going to be doing Grey Knights versus my AdMech list. Nick has gained confidence in the Grey Knights, even though he hasn't been playing them.
Time for you to take that confidence away.
I am going to take that confidence, put it right in my back pocket, and keep it there for a while. Maybe I'll give it back
That's
to
where
him
it
for
should
LVO.
God,
But,
only thing more fun than trolling me, apparently, is
is,
absolutely dumpstering Nick into the next dimension.
We're going to find out. It should be a good game, though. Grey Knights don't just roll over. So I'm going to
they
have to
don't.
play smart.
They don't. What if he just makes his 4-ups?
He could just make 4-ups as
He
well.
could. I mean,
We're
if
gonna find
anyone
out.
does.
Yep. If anyone. Nick will make 11 out of 11 on the succubus, so be
Looking forward
careful.
to it. That was disgusting.
It happened to both of us.
Yes.
Partners. Partners in succubus crime.
Partners in our opponent's rolling
God tier.
average.
But thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully, if you see that schedule there, that's all the content we're putting out this week. And we got plenty more coming up. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again, everybody. And we'll see you next
Thank
time.
you.
Dive even deeper into competitive 40K and become a member of the world's most knowledgeable and positive community.
The War Room is an exclusive group that brings together the world's best 40K players as coaches to help anyone from a newer player to an experienced tournament veteran learn, grow, and reach their goals within our shared hobby.
Each week we offer a variety of live stream coaching matches centered around illuminating the thought process and in-game decision making of top players. We explain everything we're doing and why.
You'll learn about the ever-evolving meta, match play mission theory, list making, and discussion of every faction in the game, and have access to analysis of all the latest rules. Our team of highly experienced coaches teach weekly clinics on each individual faction, strategy sessions on deployment and cool tricks, and meta-analyses each week during Meta Monday.
We are committed to not only providing the best knowledge for players available, but also building a one-of-a-kind community.
Come be a part of the War Room.